Hello, this is Lisa Russick
And Donna Murphy.
with the podcast We're All Psychic. And guess who is back? It's been too long, 2 years. Be Woo. Be Woo, how are you?
I'm good. Hi, everybody. It's great to be back, and I'm so happy to meet Donna today.
Same.
And I am so thrilled you're back. And listeners and watchers, if you're not a regular, she used to be on our show quite a bit. It's been about 2 years, probably, maybe a little less, since you were on. And the last podcast she did, oh, I forgot, Donna. Do you think we're still all psychic, Be Woo?
Yes, I still think we're all psychic.
I kind of mixed it all up there, yeah. But Bee Woo did the last podcast she did. She always talks about mediumship, listeners and watchers, if you're not familiar with her. But the last podcast she did, she talked about going to the Harry Potter magical schools. Everyone's calling it the Harry Potter school because it looks like it, Hogwarts. But just someone on our last podcast brought that up, and I said we did a podcast about that with someone. So if you listeners and watchers, if you saw, and this is a video on Spotify and YouTube. But if you did listen to that podcast, this is the person who went to that school in England. So that was a really cool podcast. You got to check that out. But today we're talking about her book on mediumship that she is going to be putting out. When are you putting this book out? Do you know?
Yeah, so I'm in the process of creating it right now.
Okay.
So yeah. What I wanted to do is I wanted to put out a book with several selected practicing mediums where I ask them questions and get their answers. And I want to also, I'm going to ask you guys what you would want to ask mediums.
Oh, yeah. Well, I am one, but I'd love to have the, every time there's a medium on the show, I ask them a million questions to compare my experiences with them, you know? I have plenty of questions. Donna, you?
And I am a semi-reluctant medium who has a lot of respect for mediums. When my clients ask for mediumship, what I basically, I never promote. I don't like to use the word promote. I don't communicate with people as that's one of my skills. Because I don't like really the word promotion. That sounds different than
I understand.
But I always say that I'm perfectly willing to try to make a connection, and that if there is one, then that's the choice of the person, who's in spirit,
right?
And it's not a reflection on them, the client, if it doesn't work.
Right.
I just want them to really know that, because especially since it's not a skill that like I said, I'm a semi-reluctant medium. So it's difficult. I want to make sure that they don't come away. If for some reason I don't make a connection, I don't want them to feel like, oh, my dear beloved departed one doesn't want to talk to me.
I know it's the worst thing. Yeah.
I don't want them to come away with that feeling. And since I maybe don't have the absolute confidence that I always will make a connection. I mean, I know it's the same. It's with tarot reading too. You have a connection with a client or you don't. Most of the time I do. There are going to be times I don't. Why I can't treat this the same way, I think, is just because I haven't really flexed those muscles.
Yeah.
But when there's a connection, and there very often is, I have found that it's quite genuine. It's quite valuable. And I'm always really thankful when that happens, because I know that's what they really need and want. It's always nice, though, to know that I know other people where mediumship is their gift, and that I could always send that person to them should I need to, if I'm not able to help them out. So
yeah, it's nice that we can support each other.
So what kind of questions are you looking for your book? Like what kind of, or do you anticipate getting, or have you gotten for your book so far?
Well, I'll tell you, I haven't been asking people for questions. I'm going to come up with the questions myself.
So you'll be like the interviewer? Yeah.
Right. I'll be the
interviewer.
Yeah. Right. And I possibly, I'm thinking I'll also do a chapter on myself, right? And
definitely.
I can answer the questions too.
Oh, yeah.
What gave me this idea is that, before I became a medium. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, or I realized I was a medium.
You
or
accepted. If I remember your
Yeah.
first podcast, you wouldn't accept it for a while, right?
Right. I had
Yeah.
no clue. I was just so dense. I was really like all these things would
Yeah,
happen. And
that's
I'd be
not
like,
bad.
yeah, that happens. Like, um, kind of funny. But I always thought, okay, John Edward, right? The TV show Crossing
Yeah,
Over. And I
I
thought,
love that show.
okay. I was like, okay, maybe it's something, it's fascinating, but my idea was that he just gets things like, okay, everybody in the audience, I'm feeling somebody in spirit who starts with an M. And then,
Yeah.
a bunch of people like, I have someone who starts with an
Yeah.
M. That's incredible. Or like maybe something a little more specific, like they play the piano, and then,
A little more specific. They like
yes,
daisies
yes,
and roses.
piano.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. They like babies.
Cats.
Yeah, exactly. And then as I began studying mediumship, because once I started studying, I started practicing like 3 times a week. I would get together with other mediums on Zoom and practice on each other. And the specificity that comes through, whether from another medium or myself, is so crazy
Bizarre.
specific, bizarre,
Mhm.
that I like it would blow my mind. Like, I don't know if I ever said this on
Right.
the show before, but there were times where something came out of my mouth and the person could take it, and it was so specific that my mind said to me, oh, they're just being polite. Like,
Right. Because you still are in denial. You're like, that's not true. That's too crazy.
right, right,
Mm-mm-mm.
right, exactly, exactly. So that's why I wanted to make a book where one question I really want to ask other mediums is, what is like the most amazing, or amazingly specific thing that you gave to somebody, and it turned out it was, it was accurate, and vice versa,
I
when
do.
a medium gave to them that they
Yeah.
personally knew, like, wow, really blows your mind.
Well, when we did that circle with your friend, I was in one of Woo's circles doing mediumship, one of your mediumship and your psychic circle. And when we did that circle, I can't remember his name, but he had my friend Wendy come through, and he's talking about her feathers and she was dancing. I don't know if you remember that, but it really
Well,
meant a lot to me.
was this Andrew?
I don't remember his name, but he was really psychic. You just
So,
looked at him and you're
so
like, oh, he's psychic as hell.
yeah. So I think you're talking about Andrew, because I think he might have been the only man in the class,
Okay,
and
okay.
Andrew
I don't
Todd.
remember what he looks like or anything, but I just remember that he was really nice and he was really
Yeah,
quiet
very.
and kind of had a stoic face. But then when he's talking his mediumship, he
Yeah.
lit up, and Wendy has really good energy too. So he
Oh,
probably felt
so
her energy, and
nice.
he just lit up. He loved doing his mediumship. His whole face just
Yeah.
changed.
Oh,
And
cool.
those circles are fun, listeners and watchers. So if you ever get a chance to do anything like that, it's really fun. It's,
Yeah.
it's it's scary though, because when I first joined you, listeners, like
Hmm.
in the circles she did,
Hmm.
you don't, if I'm the one doing the reading, I don't have cards, I don't have anything, I just have to pull it out
Hmm.
of thin air.
Mhm.
And that's hard for me because I always like to have some kind of reference point,
Mhm.
listeners. So
Yeah.
and B Boo's like, okay, you don't get any feedback either, guys. So I was
Mhm.
like, oh crap. So I'm going like just spitting out stuff that doesn't make any sense to me at
Hmm.
all. That's where you really get that lesson about
Hmm.
saying what you hear, saying what
Right.
you see, and even if it's ridiculous. And
Yeah.
that was what that taught me, those times with you.
Good. And
I
just to
already did it, but it
clarify,
wasn't as confident. And then it got a
and
lot
just to clarify, I mean, you would get feedback. It was just, I
after.
didn't,
After.
no, you get feedback during, like you could say,
Oh,
three
I'll take
things,
it,
and then
or
I
yeah.
can take that, but I didn't want people to be like my example is, let's say you said, I see a woman and I see Italy. I didn't want I wanted the person to say to you, yes, I can take a woman in Italy. I didn't want them to say, that's my Aunt Elizabeth. We went to
And then
Europe
they start
last
talking, and
winter.
yeah,
Right. And
medium
you
doesn't
would
Right.
get a
And
like,
then they
chance.
start feeling, yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
a really
yeah.
good challenge to do that,
Yeah.
though,
That's
to have
amazing. That's
nothing and just
amazing.
I'll take it and that's it. And sometimes like three people can take the first thing you say, and then it narrows down to two, and then there's one who's
Hmm.
just like, oh, this is me, and they just have this smile, and you're like, what am I doing? The first time I did it, I
That's
don't think I got anybody. The first time I did it, I don't think I got anybody for anybody because it was so alien to me.
That's
Like,
new.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like I think for most people. For
It
me,
was a
same.
different way of doing it for me, and I love the evidential mediumship now. I think that's really cool. Yeah.
Cool. Very nice.
I'm trying to think. I've never really been to a medium. Isn't that weird? I've never been to a medium for a mediumship reading because I
Yeah.
do it so much, you know?
I'm trying to think if I have. I mean, I don't think I've done, the mediumship circles are free. So
That's where the only place I've had that reading, my
yeah,
medium reading was from that man.
right. You're practicing on people, people are practicing on you. When I was 20, did I tell you this already? I went to school up in upstate New York. There's a medium community. And if you get in, you live there. It's these cute little houses, all
Maybe
in
tiny
this
houses.
gated community. Yeah, well, before tiny houses, but yes,
Yeah.
little cottages.
Oh,
It's called Lilydale.
I've heard of
Yeah.
Lilydale. I have family in
I've heard of
Pennsylvania.
Lilydale.
You
Yeah.
have. So I went to college nearby, right? Back when I didn't know anything about mediumship. And, one of my friends with a car was like, hey, we're going to go to this place called Lilydale. They have psychics there, So I went there. And so a medium, said, I have, your grandfather, and I have this, young man who died right after high school. And I just started crying. And they were like, what's wrong? I'm like, I just want to know who my soulmate is.
Yep, wrong kind of reader.
Like still mean not knowing anything about me. Like I just didn't have it. Like it was just not on my radar. So like whatever they were saying, I was like,
You're like one
I
of the
didn't
best
believe
mediums.
it. It wasn't even believe or not believe. It was just like, but that's not what I wanted to know.
Yeah. That's so fun. Yeah, sometimes as readers, we have to keep in mind what they want to know. Because sometimes I'll go on tangents just like I do on the podcast with a client, about their self-worth or something when we're talking about him, and his self-worth. I'll talk about that for a while. And, I don't know.
Although sometimes don't you find that, yes, you want to honor the client's question and what the client came for. But a lot of times there's what they came for, which is fine. But sometimes there's a whole lot more around that they probably also need to know whether it's occurred to them to ask or not.
You can't.
I mean, sometimes you just, sometimes there's information that they really do need. And while it might not be directly related to their question, it might be. If they're asking about a relationship with another person, maybe some self-examination as to, because most of the time people don't ask about happy relationships or relationships that are running smoothly.
Right.
So sometimes there's information that they need about them.
Yeah.
To kind of help contextualize what's happening in the relationship, or maybe to address some of what's happening in the relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, the mediums are at Lilydale are not, they don't do psychic work. They just do medium work. So I didn't realize
mediumship.
That. Yeah.
That's what you didn't know.
You're right. But you're right. Even as a medium, somebody might be coming to you just because they need to talk.
That's so true.
Someone to listen to, right? And it's not even so much that they're looking to connect with someone who passed away. Everybody has different reasons for coming, right?
Absolutely.
Maybe like, Donna said, there's really something else going on with them.
Yes, absolutely. I agree too. I remember I had this one medium reading. Well, first of all, I had a medium reading with a friend recently, and she doesn't know if there's life after death. And I gave her details. Like I told her what they looked like, what they're wearing, and everything fit, but she said it just wasn't enough. I
think you mentioned this to me.
I think I talked about it on the podcast once, but I did talk to you about it because I was going to send her to you because you're better than me. And you were like, no, I can't help her either if she's just not going to. If she can't take what you gave her, because I did describe them and what they said, but it wasn't enough, she said, for her to believe in it.
It felt to me like it was a test, and not like, in a bad way. Like it's not her, she's not trying to be bad or
no,
anything.
I got the very specifically, she wanted a certain message that she told them to tell her back. And I said to her, if it's that, I'm not going to get it. Yeah. Right. I'm not going to get it.
No, I'll tell you something. I was working on a psychic hotline. And I got something from Spirit for a client, and the client went, oh my God, that was my test. That is what she had in mind. like she said to the spirit, if you bring this through, like then
Yes,
I'll
that's what
believe
I
it, kind of
thought
thing.
felt
Then
she
I
was
know
doing.
it's,
But
I
yeah.
asked her if she was doing
but if
that.
she
She said
had
yes.
said that to me beforehand, like I
Yeah.
have a test for you,
Yeah.
I would have probably shut down, and like
Yeah.
my imagination would have started going, and I would have never gotten what I got. So I think
Yeah.
it was tough for you because I think her standards were so just impossible. It was
Expectations
something.
were high.
Yeah, because
I think she needs to do it herself, and I think she will.
Yeah.
I think she
Okay,
will.
that's good.
She's a
That's
psychic. Yeah, so I think she'll get there.
Yeah.
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 So I guess like in the book, how many mediums do you have writing essays for it or sections?
So that's a good question. I'm still in the process of reviewing mediums, by the way. So the deadline is this Friday in 2 days. If anybody is a practicing medium and they're interested in being considered for the book, they can, send me an email, including Lisa.
I love writing.
Yeah. Just to kind of like tell me, like one's philosophy on mediumship, how they go about it, a little of their history, so I could see if it's aligned with what I'm looking for.
What are you looking for
my book.
exactly, or around about?
Yeah. I'm looking for somebody who's actually a practicing medium, who it's something they do. There are probably posts on their Facebook page about it. They might have a website up already. They're kind of like ready to go so that when the book comes out, and an exchange to be compensated, because I'm doing this all bare bones. I'm doing
Yeah. That's
work.
how I did a lot of my books after they were published and republished
Yeah.
on Amazon. Crazy.
So compensation is that their photo, their name, their contact information will
If you
be in
get
the
paid to
book.
write, it's a miracle.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so so that's what I'm looking for. And let me just give you an example. Like today, I met with a lovely woman who we met maybe I want to say 5 years ago, and we exchanged psychic tarot together. So she sent me an email to be in the book, and I haven't read it yet. I haven't read anyone's. I'm just waiting for this weekend, and then I'll read everybody's. And so we met to exchange readings, and because I'd never seen her do a medium reading, and she said, "Oh, I don't really do medium readings. I do, psychic tarot." And I was like, "Well, that's great, but it's not right for the book because the book is for
It's focused on,
yeah. So it was
it's
really
focused on that one area. It's focused on that one thing.
that one
And
area.
yeah.
And if I had not met with her, right, I wouldn't have known that. So I'm just being very thoughtful in how I'm working it out, and I'm thinking about people out there who wish they could believe in this. They want to.
That's how this person was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about her.
And how I was, right? How I thought, okay, you're going to tell me somebody who starts with an M, right? So I think this book can really inspire people who want to believe but are skeptical into going, whoa, like that is so specific.
So
How
many
did
people.
person,
Yeah.
So many, exactly. Plus the differences, right? The differences in how different mediums,
I have a really good story. I won't tell it on the podcast. I'll save it for my essay, the submission.
Okay.
It was very specific, and it went on for days. Like it was a free. I used to be in this Facebook group where I gave free readings in 2018 with some friends, and this situation just I don't want to get into. I'll save it for the book. Trailer teasing already for you. For my submission. It's the craziest story, and I couldn't even believe how much detail came through when I was in that group with those people. Because the woman who had Sheila, I always call her Sheila, the angel lady, because she works with angels mostly. And she does lots of other things now. But when I met her, she was just working with angels, and she just has a lot of energy. She has good energy, and when you're working with her and in her groups and stuff, you kind of accelerate really quickly, because I don't know how that works, but
Oh,
it did.
wow.
Like this, you get help
The
from the
vibration.
angels from her,
Yeah.
and it's like it just all worked out really well. And I learned more than I ever had about a lot of shit that summer when I worked in her group. I mean, just
Sounds
amazing
amazing.
stuff that I just didn't know was out there. And then I made a friend with a witch, with Akasha Prime from the podcast. She's been on a bunch of times. Well, wait, a long time ago. We're still friends, but she's in Alabama,
Oh,
and
okay.
it's just been. Now, God, this is kind of interesting. Now, how do you guys ever meet people who are afraid of mediumship to do it themselves, who are in the field? I've met a lot of people in the field who do not want to do mediumship for they don't want to talk to the dead. They don't want to have anything to do with it. And it's just kind of just, why do you think that is? What do you think that's about?
Yes, I think it's a fear of death, right? And a
Yeah.
fear of
And yeah,
powers, or are there bad spirits?
mysteries.
Can they hurt me? Can I be haunted? Things like that. I was in a car with this lovely couple who was driving me and my husband to my sister's wedding, and she's a psychic. And when the husband heard I was a medium, he said to her, "You're not doing that."
Yeah. Yeah, that's how the Alabama is usually. So yeah. I'm sorry for her, man. That's terrible.
Yeah. Oh,
I
well,
was with my
yeah.
first husband. I would practice, and he would just act like I was being ridiculous. I was like, "Can I try practicing like what I'm seeing with you?" And he's like, "What does that mean?" I said, "Well, the psychic thing I'm working on with the cards and all that." And he's like, "Okay." And I told him stuff, and I knew I was right.
Yeah.
Refused to say yes.
It scared him. Right. It probably scared him. He didn't
I don't
want
know.
to.
I don't know. I didn't know I was right, but now looking back, I realize his reactions were a little strange.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe.
He couldn't, like he had a block and
Maybe,
trying
yeah.
to
And he
accept
didn't
it,
remember his
right?
early childhood very well, and that's kind of the stuff that was coming up for me. So,
Ah,
yeah, yeah,
so maybe he didn't want to, or he
yeah,
wasn't ready to
right,
remember.
exactly. I was thinking that.
Okay.
But
And
what was
also, I
it?
wanted to say to you that, oh, I'm sorry, were you going
Oh
to
no, you
ask?
go ahead.
I was going to say when you said when you first started in a medium circle that you didn't get something right away, the same thing happened with me. I don't know if I told you that the first time I got something, I was sleeping. Did I tell you that?
Oh, I don't remember that. I don't remember that at all.
So my very first medium circle, I tried and I tried and I didn't really know what I was doing and, whatever. And then it was like once a week. And then maybe it was, let's say, the third week, I was sleeping late and I had this dream. And in the dream, all of a sudden, I saw this word Elizabeth or name or I heard it or both. And I saw this woman and then I saw another woman and her name was like Lena. So I woke up and it was time for the mediumship meeting. And I thought, I wonder if this was for somebody in the circle, but it, came in when my defenses were down,
Yeah.
So I
When
go
you're
to the circle.
receptive and
Right. When you're receptive because it's not scared, right? You're sleeping. So I go to the medium circle and the woman, her first one, her name's Colleen, and I think she quit mediumship soon afterward, but I always appreciated she brought me into this. And it was for her. It were her two aunts. It was like Elizabeth and I said Lena, but I think it was Leah. And the way I described them, her two aunts in spirit. That's who I dreamed of. So after that, I would just try to relax and get in that dream state, and
Yeah,
things started
that's so
happening while I
cool.
was
Yeah,
awake.
like a trance state. I kind of get into that trance. I don't remember what I say usually. Solid pieces, maybe. So, does that happen to you? Do you remember most of what you say, or?
Yeah, no, because it's not my memories, it's somebody
It's not,
else's,
yeah,
right?
it's like coming right out. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't remember it because it's not
And
your memory.
also you're in that kind of trancey state to get
Yes.
there. And it's not a place that has memory really,
Exactly. I've studied with several different teachers, and I studied with Charlie Kelly, and he told us that they've done scientific studies where they've hooked mediums up, and that our brain waves change to that of someone sleeping when we start giving a reading.
I have read that before. That's fascinating to me too. Oh my gosh. Oh, you just got so much good stuff to talk about today. I missed you. And now, Donna, do you have any questions for B? I bet you sure do.
Yeah, just a couple. So one, I guess that's really something too. I mean, I think there's a junction point where and it may not even be really clear maybe for our audience, and it's not always really entirely clear for me. And I'm always aware that there can be overlap. But the idea of channeling, being psychic, and being a medium, and kind of what's the nexus point?
Yeah.
Because are you a channel if you're
If you're a
channel, are you psychic? Are you a medium? You know what I mean? And it's not just I have no strong desire to slap labels on things. It's the idea of trying to understand how intertwined those may be. And can you, I would say, be one without the other?
Interesting. Maybe all three are kind of like paint, right? And just one is one color, one is the other, but they're all paint. They're all made of the same. The way that I would define it is that mediumship is when you are connecting with a human loved one who's passed away and is now in spirit. Okay. That channeling is when you're connecting with a spirit guide or an angel, right? Some kind of entity like that, like a high vibration entity. And then psychic is when you're blending with the soul of a human who's still alive in their body.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
That's beautiful.
I love that.
Yeah, you broke that down. She breaks it down like a mixed message.
I do try to put myself in our audience's shoes, and I know a lot of that. I mean, there's a broad spectrum of interests, and there's a broad spectrum of how well versed they are. Are they already very well versed, and are they going deeper, or are they kind of new and there's things they don't know? So I try to look somewhere in there and think, if they were going to ask, what would they ask? Plus, I have my own curiosity, of course. So
yeah.
And then the other thing, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was saying that's such a great idea that you're empathetic to what the audience might be wondering or they're learning, right? They're learning from the channel. Yeah.
And then the other thing is, I guess, and it was kind of how we started the conversation and what you started when you were telling your story of, kind of the whole idea of gallery reading. And I think maybe one of the reasons it's not the only reason, it's something that I've always really had mixed feelings about because of exactly what you described. And I'm not saying it's fake, and I'm not saying the people who do it are not authentic. I'm not saying any of that. There's no judgment here, and there's no condemnation here. But to me, if I'm going from my logical mind, then yes, if I'm in a room with 50 people and I start with like you said, right, an initial M, whatever, played the piano, just law of averages. I mean, if I set aside everything else and just use my logical mind, it's like I wouldn't necessarily need to be psychic to at least start to get hits on that.
Yeah. He would get real specific once he got someone nailed down. John Edwards would.
That I think is specific. That I think is the difference. Now, once you're actually focused on one person, but if you are in a group, a large group, the idea that first, culling of information or whatever, I mean, you almost can't be wrong at that point.
At that point, no.
Yes, but can I say something? I think that if you start out with your logical mind, right, like, okay, it's someone with an M. Okay, we've got 20 people. Okay, it's someone with an M who can play the piano. Okay, we're down to 2. If you start with that just to not be wrong, you're going to be in a lot of trouble once you narrow it down to one person because you haven't been communicating with anybody.
Right, exactly. Exactly. No. And that's why I said this is not to question anybody's ethics or authenticity or anything else. And I look at it, if I'm the observer, if I'm simply there as an observer, I'm in the audience or I'm watching the TV program or whatever. Yeah. Again, I'm not involved in the process, or I'm not directly involved in the process. And that's when my logical mind is saying, well, okay.
Oh, exactly.
You almost can't be wrong. So
That's right. That's why I want to write the book. That's
Gonna
why
be
I
a
want
great
to do
book.
that
yes.
reason, because that's how I thought. And
Yeah.
I want people to read this, people's real experiences, and go, oh, it's not just starting with an M. It's,
Yeah.
you know, it's that they owned like a chihuahua,
Yeah.
like or,
They're
whatever.
buried in New England and this stuff. Yeah, where how they died sometimes comes through. For some mediums, that's the first thing that comes through. It's not for me usually.
Yeah.
Sometimes it does, but that's not
Yeah.
usually like for me. I don't know. I'm gonna ask you guys. I always keep them all shut out. Like I couldn't get in a room with people and just say. I mean, I would have to cold read until I zeroed in on someone, and then I could read them.
Mhm.
So it'd be a fake thing until I got to one person. But I can't just open up and say, "Okay, guys, come on in," and then I will go crazy. They will all come
Yeah.
in, and they will drive me crazy. And so I always keep like a kind of block up. And when someone asks for a mediumship reading, I ask them for a description or they give me a picture, and
Mhm.
then I'll let that person in or spirit in,
Yeah.
and whoever wants to come with them, it's good.
Yeah.
And sometimes bad ones come through with them, and I'll kick them back out. I
Yeah.
mean, I've had one that was like walking around my house and looking in my windows. It was, from my point of view, it was a
Oh,
spirit, and the other
yeah.
person was
But
just
still,
it was a bad spirit, and the spirit
yeah.
wouldn't leave my house, and I could see it. The person I was reading for couldn't. And I was just like, they won't leave my house. And they were looking at her through the windows and stuff from my point of view. Like they got out of the house, but they were still being creepy. It was like an ancestor of some sort that had hurt her. And they were still kind of haunting in her memory. And that's what it was when she thought of him. When you think of them, they are there is something I learned with mediumship. Like if you think of them, they are there. That's always accurate to me. If I think of a dead relative, if I want them to be, they're right there, or a spirit guide. If I think of them, and then if I believe and trust in myself and my experiences more and more and more as I grow and mediumship, then I do know, or I do trust. I shouldn't say no. I do trust what the spirits say more with experience, a lot of experience. But how do you do it, B? Do you have them like? Do you just let them come in, or?
Yeah, so I take one at a time. Um, and then if they're connected with other family members, then sometimes they'll come
Yeah.
together. I had this one reading where I was like, wait a minute, there's another one. There's another one. Like, turned out like at the end there were like 8 of them. But
Oh, wow.
I
what
had
I
one where my backyard filled with all the ancestors, and they were all men. They had a thing going on. Yeah, it was crazy.
but I don't believe in bad spirits. I think that, once they've crossed over, they lose all their flaws as
A
a human.
human kind of
Yeah.
negative. Uh,
Now they
yeah,
may show things to identify themselves,
right.
about things that they did that were bad, or their personality flaws or things like
Mhm.
that. But I also I have my bounder. Oh, I'm sorry.
You raise your hand.
Oh,
Yeah, Zoom does that
just
now.
love it. I love Zoom for that. I mean,
I know. I
we
love it.
all
The
do it
thumbs up,
we all do it with our
random
hands and the
thumbs
next
up.
thing.
So
Yeah.
funny.
It does it on time. Yeah. Worst
Yep.
times.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I was going to say, I'll make a boundary or an intention, because I have, in practice readings, I have gotten a lot of times not somebody close to the sitter, but
Mhm.
a neighbor or a friend's friend or their brother's wife's
Mm.
husband, things like that. So I know when someone's paying for it, they're looking for someone closer to them. So I'll keep that intention. And then I think, like Lisa, you can ask your spirit guide, your guide, to be a gatekeeper and be like,
That's kind of what I do. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know if does that answer the
Yeah,
question?
that's really cool. That's really cool. And
Mhm.
Okay.
Donna, how was your experience with mediumship so far in your life?
Again, when I'm working with clients, I still will often keep my deck nearby, my tarot deck nearby, just because
Mhm.
for me,
It's grounding, isn't it?
well, it is grounding. Maybe it's a security blanket. I don't know. Sometimes because the symbols, all the symbolism in the tarot actually helps me
Mhm.
kind of put into words what's coming through by
Yeah.
giving me a symbol that I can then give to
Translate. Yeah.
To the client. So, so it's been fascinating. I really feel like, especially when a person asks specifically, especially if the loss is very profound or very recent or both, there's a real peace and a real comfort that I feel if there's any connection, I know you guys were talking before about, some people have a certain word or a certain phrase that's their, I'll say test
That's
word.
rare though, I found.
Or test. Yeah. But I guess the thing is, for me, I always feel really grateful and really honored that I was allowed to do that for my client, for the questioner, because there's a real comfort and a real peace that comes from making that connection. And that, I think, is what, for me, that's what allows me to be able to do it, despite my somewhat, again, reluctance. As far as personal experience, and again, I don't know if a person needs to be or would, if this is even mediumship, really. But when I've had direct experience, like when someone has passed in my life, and I've had a direct experience of communication with them, because the most intense and the most profound one that I ever had was also incredibly painful for me. It's another reason that I think I kind of step back a little bit, realizing, of course, that what happens with a client is going to be different. I'm going to be empathetic and compassionate toward them, but their loss is not my loss.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, yeah. So that's a real, again, I don't even know if that, I know a lot of people who would not consider themselves mediums or even psychic, who have had an experience in the loss of a loved one where they had a direct experience with the person who passed.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. We've heard of those all the time, right? Which kind of goes back to we're all psychic, right? Or maybe we're all mediums. Yeah. But
because I think
I think it's because, Donna, you're so empathetic that I think part of you, because you've had that experience, you're very, very concerned and conscientious that you don't want to hurt your sitter, and so you're taking extra care, I think, and maybe
I try to be really really tender, because it's a hurt, it's a hurt place.
It is, yeah. I kind of end up changing the energy in the room a little bit when I do a medium reading. You know what I mean? Do you do that, B? And maybe you too, Donna, if it's a room, or if it's on the phone, just the energy of the reading, yes. Kind of calm it down some. Down some. I don't know. That's kind of how I do it, though. But B, where can the listeners find out more about you? And we have a website still at New York City Medium, or you have a different website?
I've got the website, nycmedium.com, and I just started a Facebook page called nycmedium.com.
We'll have to go follow that.
Yeah.
It's got a profile picture and a cover picture, but I'm going to start posting on it very soon.
Great.
And Instagram, nycmedium.com.
nycmedium.com and I'll put all that information in the description.
Sorry, I'm in Instagram, no .com, right? nycmedium.
Everyone says .com to everything.
Everybody.com.
Thanks.
And lastly, I'd like to thank our sponsor. Well, this is one of the many lastlies. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Everclear. Everclear is an advice app and website where you can get advice from psychics and empaths, so you can get the clarity you need to create the life you deserve. And Donna and I, and are you still on Everclear, B-Woo?
I am.
We have us are advisors on Everclear. So you could get a reading from any of us. I'm Lisa Russick. She is Maria M. We're trying to get your name changed, Donna. They did
trying to get my name. Yeah. Not yet. Maria M is how I appear on Everclear. I am hoping soon to be Donna Murphy on Everclear, we'll dispel all confusion.
Yeah. And I can't remember what your name is, B, on
It's Biwu.
It is Biwu. Okay,
It's
that's why I
Biwu,
was like,
yeah.
is it Biwu? I just couldn't remember if he had a different name or not. I love that name.
I think I tried changing it,
It's
and
the
then I
best
didn't
name
like
ever.
that. And
It's the best name ever. She's
It
also a
is.
comedian, Donna. She's a comedian.
I love that.
Yeah,
I
she's an
love
actress
that.
and a screenwriter. Listeners and watchers, this woman does everything. So,
Oh,
and I always
Renaissance
appreciate your
woman.
yeah. And do you have any last minute advice for any listeners who they've had medium experiences, but they don't think they are medium experiences? And sometimes they do, but they just can't be. Sound familiar? What would you tell them to look for to make sure like that they can confirm it is an actual medium experience for themselves, like for their own validation?
oh, it's a good question. I mean, well, what I would recommend actually is to sign up for a session with a medium by giving a different name. A different name. I'm not sure how to do it money wise so they can't see your name, but I would do a different email, different name, so that when they do bring valid things in, you're not thinking,
They looked you up.
they look me up, because now you know there's no possible way they could look you up, right?
Yeah,
Right,
and find
right.
out things from either your
Smart.
either a website or a social profile,
That's
social
a
media
good
profile.
idea.
Yeah,
That's a
Yeah.
really good idea.
Yeah.
Wow. That's brilliant. Lie to your readers, people. They won't know.
Well,
It was really a good idea. If you want to test someone, don't ask them to tell your father or whatever to say the exact phrase, the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. I will not get that. I will not. I would like to. I'd like to be that good, but I'm not. They come through pretty clear, but not that clear
yeah.
for me, But
I don't
and
know.
plus, what's that?
Yeah, I don't know about phrases. The one I told you about when she told me after I got it that was her test.
Yeah.
It was an object I saw. It was a specific object.
Wow. Okay.
That's what it was. Yeah, I don't know anything about getting a phrase. That sounds like
I've gotten phrases
word for
before.
something.
I mean, I've gotten whole sentences before, but not from them saying to them to tell me that.
Right, not a
To have
test.
proof.
Exactly.
And sometimes I've had the
Exactly.
spirit say to me, she wants me to tell you this, but you can't get it because you're not going to get it. So tell her
Yeah.
you know that at least. And I'll say
Yeah.
to her, he says that you have a code or a test or something. I didn't say test, but you have him wanting to say something. And they're just like, oh, okay.
That's
Most
another thing
recent-
actually that the client can do besides not giving their real name. Speak to the spirit ahead of time, your loved one ahead of time.
Yeah.
And tell them, look, and give them something that you want to come through. But don't tell the medium that you have a test. Because like I said, if
don't make it hard, like ridiculous.
I would have tensed up and I would have
I would have frozen. I would have
definitely.
Yeah.
Well, the spirits usually tell me if there's a test.
Yeah.
But they'll explain either I can or cannot pass it, With my skills, they're usually pretty open about it. So the client doesn't usually tell me, the spirit does.
Sometimes it's something really, again, that I won't even, although I've at least learned enough to know not to filter it out. But sometimes it'll be a name or a word, or most recently, we were in the midst of the reading, and I just, even mid thought or mid sentence, I just stopped and said, I think I can say this without violating anybody's privacy. I said to the client, she says, you're stronger than you know. And she just burst into tears. And she said that to me, like, really not very, like, very close to the time that she passed.
Wow. Yes.
So, I mean, again, that's not something, again, that wasn't something that she and her, departed person.
But that was a message that she knew.
But it was a very clear message that she could immediately, it wasn't like she had to stop and go, I'm not sure what that means or where that fits. She knew herself exactly what.
That's so cool.
And you know what? I think that'll be very validating for the regular client. As far as the client, like for the question, right? What do you do with a client who, says that they've had medium readings and that even after they get valid information, they still say, oh, that wasn't a medium reading. For that client, then I would say, plan something ahead of time with your loved one for, not that it'll definitely come in,
subject.
but Yeah, and
But
don't use
it's
your name. You're trying to
yeah.
make it so that somebody who's that skeptical will have something, to kind of give them more faith in the
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up around here. Y'all are just so
Okay.
awesome. I can just keep this. This has been an hour. I mean, my timer says an hour, and we all got
Yeah,
on.
I know. We're just,
Maybe it's been about a 45-minute podcast. Still long.
yeah,
Maybe
I
we can
think
keep
so
around 30
too.
minutes, but you can talk. And thank you, Biwu, so much for coming on the show.
You're welcome. I had so much fun. Thank you for inviting me.
Always
Great
a fun.
to
You come
meet
back
Donna.
anytime, always.
Yeah, it
Thank
was
you.
such a pleasure to meet you. I'm so pleased that we met. This has been a wonderful conversation. I know it's going to help a lot of people out there.
I think so too.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you.
And thank you, Donna.
Oh, of course,
And
you're very
B,
welcome.
B, one last question, Biwu. Do you love our listeners and our watchers?
Yes, I love them.
Love. Love, love, love. Thank you.
Just
And listeners,
more
I
like
love you too. Donna loves you too.
Yeah.
And
You
everybody
know
have a
I
great
love
time.
you.
Wherever you may be. Peace out. Bye.
Hey.
Bye-bye.